who you're targeting is not your 85-year-old, 95-year-old resident. You're targeting daughter Judy, the adult child who's paying for mom or dad to live in your home. So you really want to do your demographic research and find out where those 50 to 70-year-olds who are making twice the median income, who are homeowners, who are doing pretty well for themselves, where do they live, eat, work, sleep, play? Because you want your home right by them.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB & Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 345. My guest today is one of the top experts and influencers in senior housing. During the pandemic, senior housing took a real hit as facilities across the country were perceived as super spreader locations. Has senior housing bounced back? And what does the future hold in store for this asset class? Isabelle Guarino-Smith is the COO of Residential Assisted Living Academy, and she's here today to discuss this fast-growing investment opportunity. Isabelle, welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Let's just start with a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself and how you came to be the COO of Residential Assisted Living Academy.
I think in the past you've had my father on your show, which is awesome. And he was kind of known as the godfather of assisted living. He really took hold of the residential assisted living market and kind of made it his own. And he brought me along for the ride about 8 years ago. And we had 3 people on our team back then. Over the course of the last 8 years, we built 7 companies and had a lot of fun along the way. We've now got a team of almost 50 people, and he has since passed on, but he really left me such a beautiful blessing and opportunity by leaving me 3 cash flowing residential assisted living homes. So I felt a deep burden, passion, strong why as to having to keep this message going forward. You know, it would be selfish of me to let it just stop with me. So it's important that I share this with other people so they can leave blessings to their children or their parents or grandparents, or just cash flow like crazy, whatever route they want to take.
Tell us a little bit about senior housing. What are we talking about when it comes to senior housing? And I know your dad was such a great evangelist for it. Why did you decide to pick up that mantle?
When I saw what he was doing and I saw the opportunity there, it really felt like, wow, we are ahead of the market on this. A lot of people were around in 2008 and they wish they had a crystal ball to know what to do in that point and what the future would look like. And I feel like we have a crystal ball right now. When I look ahead at the market, it's like there are so many baby boomers who are going to need care and assistance, and follow the money. This is where it's going. So I know you mentioned at the beginning COVID and how it took a really hard hit on senior housing. Really, truly, what was interesting was for years, we've been saying smaller is better when it comes to assisted living. You know, the smaller the residential homes, the one where they can be more, contained and controlled. And what we found during COVID was people banging on our doors, begging to let their parents into our homes. So it was really interesting. There's been a massive shift in the market where people no longer want to go into big facilities. They want to stay in a more home setting, right? Not home-like. They want a home. So it's been interesting because it's been a big shift, and we've seen a massive influx of people really begging to get into these residential assisted living homes.
What are we talking about when we say residential assisted living homes? How is the size of those different from some of the larger players?
So a residential assisted living home is a single family home in a single family neighborhood, not a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, more like a 5-bedroom plus. It's still single family, but it's definitely in a regular neighborhood. It's not a commercial facility. So I know some of your listeners might dabble in all sorts of real estate. This is still considered residential single family. It's really only housing between 6 and 16 residents. So a big facility, a Brookdale Sunrise Atrium, they probably have 100 plus residents, some up to 1,000. So it's definitely a smaller version, a more home version of a big facility.
Let's talk about the demographics, because you mentioned the baby boomers. I think 10 years ago, you guys might have been way out ahead of the curve, because baby boomers started happening 10,000 a day. We're retiring and we're expecting this big influx into senior homes. But of course, the baby boomers are pretty healthy. So that kind of got delayed a little bit. So where are we in the demographics now in 2022? What do you see coming down the pipeline as far as the demographics that are going to be needing senior living?
So right now, there's about 10,000 people a day turning 65, 4,000 people a day turning 85. But in 15, 20 years, there's going to be at the peak, right? In 15, 20 years, there's going to be 11,500 people turning 85 every day. That's crazy. You don't need assisted living at 65. You need it at 85 plus typically, right? You need help with those activities of daily living. So getting up out of bed, brushing your hair or teeth, or eating, bathing, going to the bathroom, moving around, all of those different things. But at some point, not only is there going to be a massive amount of homes on the market, because all these baby boomers are going to have to sell their homes to move into assisted living or nursing care. The only other option is in-home care, which we can talk about that for a minute. It's ridiculously expensive. So unless you're in that very niche category, the top 1%, you're probably going to have to deal with one of these other options. One of your adult children quitting their job and taking care of you 24/7, or moving into a large facility or a residential assisted living facility.
You just mentioned in-home care. What is that, and why is that ridiculously expensive?
So I don't know if your listeners are on TikTok, but we just kind of started dabbling into TikTok. And I made a video that said, hey, the average cost of in-home care right now in America is $24 an hour. So if you go to the doctor and mom or dad fell and broke their hip and they said they can't go home alone, they need 24/7 care. $24 an hour times 24 hours in a day times 30 days, that's $17,000 a month. Plus their lease or mortgage, their food, anything else that they need. People can afford that. So then you say, okay, well, I don't need 24/7. I, the adult child, will take the nights and weekends. We just need mom to have care while I'm at work. That's still about $4,000 a month. Plus now you just gave up your nights and weekends. Say goodbye to soccer games and wine nights and whatever else you do. You're now a full-time caregiver on any of your off moments, So it's still very expensive. And I know people think it's the best option, but a lot of times it's actually not.
Let's talk about the financials then of owning a residential home. What does that typically cost the resident, and what is the profit model there for the investor?
So a typical assisted living home right now in America is about $4,500 per month per resident. So again, we said you could have anywhere between 6 and 16 residents in the home. Here in Arizona, we're limited to 10. So we'll use that number for easy math. If you have 10 residents paying $4,500 per month, that's $45,000 coming in. With 10 residents, your expenses, including all of your staff, everything that you need, really shouldn't be more than $28,000 a month, minus maybe $5,000 in debt service or lease, however you set that up. You should be cash flowing about $10,000 a month on one of these residential assisted living homes.
What are some of the considerations that one should have when determining what kind of house to buy? What is necessary as far as furniture or size, or is it a 1-level, 2-level type of house? What do you typically look for?
When we're talking about the property, you definitely want to go above and beyond whatever your state requirements are. The state might say 80 to 100 square feet per person is okay. No. We say absolutely not. You need 300 to 500 square feet per person. So with 10 residents, a minimum of a 3,000 square foot home, more comfortably around that 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home is more suitable.
So that's the overall size of the home, not the bedroom where they might be.
Correct. So it's just kind of that rule of thumb of 300 to 500 per person. So depending on how many people, make that work. Most people want private bedrooms, private bathrooms. So it's okay to have one or two shared options within the home, but primarily you're going to want as many private bedrooms, private bathrooms as you can. They can be half baths, that's fine, but that is preferred. So definitely we're talking larger properties, lots of bedrooms. The biggest key is the demographics, is finding where specifically that home should be. Who you're targeting is not your 85-year-old, 95-year-old resident. You're targeting daughter Judy, the adult child who's paying for mom or dad to live in your home. So you really want to do your demographic research and find out where those 50 to 70-year-olds who are making twice the median income, who are homeowners, who are doing pretty well for themselves, where do they live, eat, work, sleep, play? Because you want your home right by them.
Let's talk about the Residential Assisted Living Academy. And I know, starting with your dad and now with you're out there doing training, showing people how to do this. What are some of the considerations that someone would need to have to even decide, do I want to even look at this? I mean, what kind of person do you have to be? Because there is definitely, you have to be focused on helping people, because this is a very important people business. But then there's also the profit motive. So how are you vetting your students so that you make sure they're able to account for both?
Oftentimes we find people who find us just because of the money factor. And they're like, I just want to make a lot of money. And we are very particular about who we let into our trainings and who we want to give this information to. And to be frank, I love the fact that there are barriers to entry in our industry. I don't want just anyone being able to take care of grandma. No, you should be someone who is willing to jump through some hoops, who's willing to make it happen and maybe even struggle along the way, because I want to make sure that you're the right person who has the right heart. Because at some point, those, barriers to entry, people start to fall off. Oh, it's too hard. It's too much. It's too that. But if your why and your heart is strong enough and wants this bad enough, you'll keep going. And that's kind of what matters in the long run, is who ends up doing this. In general, our trainings are awesome. Obviously, we're teaching people how to find the homes, fund the homes, fill the homes, how to participate as a JV lender partner, maybe just owning the real estate or owning the real estate and being an operator. We kind of go over all the different angles, and all of the educators who are there with me at our training, they're past students who went through the training, who then got their own homes up and running, and now they're back to teach everyone else. So I really love that, because we don't just teach this, we do what we teach. We're in the industry with you. We're in the trenches with you. I think that's important too.
Take us by the hand here and walk us through the process of the finding, the funding, and the other F that you just mentioned. The soup to nuts. What does it take to actually put one of these in place?
Finding the home. So we just talked about a moment ago, demographics. So it's really identifying that best place that you want this home to be, right? So finding the perfect home for this. How are you going to play? Are you going to buy land and build a custom home ground up? Are you going to buy a single family home and convert it to become an RAL? Are you going to purchase an existing residential assisted living, purchasing the real estate and the business? Or are you going to lease from someone who owns the property that's retrofit to do this? So finding your location, deciding which of the four is kind of that first step. Once you get the property and it's ready to go, licensing, finding that manager, that administrator who's going to run all the day-to-day operations for you so you can work on the business, not in the business, right? I want you guys to play the role of being the owner of the real estate and the business, not the caregiver, not the person doing tours. No. I want you to be more hands off. You're setting this up so that it can run on its own and you're just watching it kind of from afar, more or less. When it comes to funding the property, again, depending on where it's located and which of the 4 options you're choosing, the funding, it can come from a whole bunch of different resources. We cover that really in depth in the training, but there's a ton of SBA loans. There are some government funding. Some people choose private money, hard money, JV lenders, really whatever you need, bank loans. We go through kind of all of that. We have a guy who comes in and teaches about syndication. So you could go that route. So funding the home, how are you going to pay for this project so that you don't have to use your own money if you don't want to? And then filling the home. So marketing is key, right? We don't just want to set all this up and now no one comes to live there. It's not if you build it, they will come. You have to make sure that you're marketing along the way. You're saying and doing those right things, setting yourself up so that when you do open doors, you've got a waiting list. You've got people ready to move in right away. So we go through all the tips and tricks on that, what you need to do to market yourself properly, set up those open houses, create those relationships so that you can be full and then cash flow.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB and Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com.
Let's talk about staffing, because I know right now finding people to do anything is very difficult. And it seems like one of the key roles here is that manager, that person who's actually going to run the facility for you. But then you also have other staff members. Can you kind of take us through who those people are and how you find them in the first place?
I love talking about staffing just because I think this is actually one of the biggest things that separates us from a larger facility. The way that we can and teach our students to invest in their staff. So when someone comes to work in the home, I actually was just doing a home tour with one of our successful students, Deidre, out in Connecticut. And I was asking her, she's been open for almost 2 years. I said, how's staff turnover? How's that going? And she's like, I followed all of your guys' tips and I have not lost one caregiver in over 2 years. And I was like, yes, it's what we want to hear, because so many people are like freaking out about finding employees and staff right now. But the little things go a long way. When someone comes to interview with you, we ask not all the interview questions, but once you kind of get the feeling you're going to hire them, we start asking other questions, personal questions. What are your goals in life? What do you want to do? How much money do you want to make? Like, do you have a college education or do you want one? Like different questions like that to just find out about them and their goals. And then, once you're cash flowing $10K a month on one home, you have an opportunity to be able to give back to other people in special ways. So if someone says, I really want to go be an LPN, or I really want to go do whatever the case is, being able to help them pay for a community college course or trade school or something like that is such a blessing. And the loyalty that employee will have to you because you listened to them, you cared, you helped them is major. From a small thing, like we had a caregiver who said, I really want to lose weight. So we brought in a nutritionist who helped her create like a diet plan. And literally she was crying, like, no one cared about me that much, but that was her goal. And it was like, we can help with that. No problem. We've had other students who bought a car for their manager because their car broke down and they needed a couple $100 payment. It's worth it all day. That manager will never leave you, and they will run to go tell their friends and family about what their boss did for them. So I think that because the cash flow is so great, it gives you such an opportunity to give back and invest in your employees and staff, that those things go a long, long way. And it really helps eliminate turnover, unsatisfied employees, and it makes them more committed to you and to the residents in the long run.
Take us through an example of, say, one of your students, or maybe in your own personal investing, of the investment that went in financially, and then the return on that investment, some of the successes that you've seen out there.
Depending on which of the 4 routes we talked about that you take, the investment level is going to range for sure. So if you're buying land, right, if some people are in states, we have Brad and Angie, some of our students out in Kansas, they purchased land, right, and then built custom homes. So that totally ranges versus someone leasing the home from someone, right? And they're just paying a lease. So the investment, I hate to say it, but the answer is just, it depends where you are located and which of those 4 routes. We've had people who are in for $300K and we've had people who are in for $3 million. So that's really almost a personal choice of where you're doing this and then what route you want to take. I will caveat that by saying, live where you want, invest where it makes sense. That's advice, not just for Ariel. It's advice for everything, right? Airbnbs, single family rentals, whatever. You don't have to do this where you live, right? If where you live, the demographics aren't right, or the rates are super low, or whatever the case may be, maybe you live in California and you're like, it's so expensive out here. I don't want to do it here. That's fine. Invest where it makes sense. 31% of residential assisted living owners are out of state or remote owners. I suggest anyways, if it's in your state, that you live a bit away, so you're not tempted to go drive there every day and check on everyone and how's it going. I'm way too type A to live around the corner from our homes. We're like 45 minutes away, and it's just enough to make me say, not today, maybe next week, maybe tomorrow, and not visit very often. So investment, back to that question, it really ranges. Time frame also ranges. That should be noted too. If you're buying land, that's going to take the longest, right? Purchasing the land, renovating it, getting it up and running, versus the fastest or easiest way is buying an existing REL home and the real estate. You're up and running, cash flowing day one. So that one might be expensive because you're buying a business, but you're cash flowing right away. So there's pros and cons to kind of all of them.
You just brought up buying an existing business. If you start one of these businesses, how do you position it to sell it later on? And how is it valued when you do?
So we have a student, Rocky and Sherry, and their goal was to get 100 of these and then sell them to the hedge funds, right? So my dad's goal was, I'm going to pass these to my kids, pass them a cash flowing asset. And that could be your goal too. Hold on to it and give it to your kids. But if your goal is to sell, I would highly suggest that you do more than one. You do at least 3, if not 5, 10, however many you want. Package them up and then sell them off. You will cash out really, really nicely. He owns currently, I just talked to him last weekend, Rocky, and he said he's on his 6th home, and each home right now is going for $7 million each, the real estate and the business. So he's going to make a really nice, even if he doesn't get to his 100, even if he sold the 6 right now, he'd be doing really, really well, because each of them was less than a $2 million that he put in, purchasing, renovating the real estate, getting it up. So he's going to be doing really, really good at the end of the day on those.
Where have you seen people go wrong? I mean, where do people make the mistakes and cause problems for themselves?
I want to say it's because they didn't come to our training, Brian. Definitely, I think we have a lot of free information online, free webinars, free YouTube videos, and people watch this and say, oh my God, I could do that. I've done Airbnb. I've set up this. I've done that. I could do it. And then they make a million mistakes along the way, from Oh gosh, not having their policies and procedures set up, not raising capital in the right way, understanding what these investors actually want and need, setting yourself up for success in that way. Maybe they're signing on to, if they are leasing the home from someone, maybe they're signing the wrong lease and it doesn't favor them and they really need to watch out for those things. Hiring people that they don't get along with or don't understand and don't want to work with, not marketing right away. You got to market right away. And then just physically the home, making poor choices in the renovation with the home of, you mentioned earlier, can you do it on multi-level home? Absolutely. Adding in a chairlift or elevator, you can do it all day. We've got a student, Brian, out in New Jersey, who has a 4-story home. He added in an elevator. If paying for a $30,000 elevator one time opens up 2 or 3 more levels of a home, it's worth it all day. But some people will be like, oh, that floor is just off. And it's like, oh my gosh, come on. So there's so many mistakes that can be made. If you want to avoid mistakes, definitely come to us and we will help you as best we can.
Your father left you 3 homes. What did that mean to you when all of a sudden you had 3 homes? Did you then have to scramble to figure out how to take control of them? Or was it pretty much turnkey and you were able to just step in and start receiving checks?
For us, it was turnkey because the way he runs his, or he was running his, was very, very hands off. So he's got his manager in place and she runs all of the day-to-day stuff and really does all of the hiring, firing, scheduling, payroll. She markets the home, she tours the home. So there was very little that I needed to do. And because I had been, involved with him in his businesses for the last 8 years, I saw what he was doing. So I knew kind of what steps I would need to take as the owner. But genuinely, these were very passive assets he was handing to me because he had done the hard work of the upfront of setting it up to getting it to that point. So biggest blessing ever in my life. I mean, that's absolutely incredible that he was able to give that, to us. And I feel so lucky. And I want to impart that onto other investors and entrepreneurs that, leaving your kids a trust fund or a lump sum of money is very cool, but money gets spent really quick, and leaving them something that means something, and can potentially provide, quality care and an impact on your community, providing people jobs, relieving guilt from those daughter duties, because now they know mom's getting the best care that she could. It's actually a very emotional industry. And I don't think I realized that until I took over. And I was so proud of what my dad had done and so proud of what I'm able to continue to do. And I just want to help impart that on other people. Money's cool, but making an impact is cooler.
Any other advice you have for listeners who are interested in this space, but still quite not sure?
Don't get into this for the money. Get into this because you have a strong why and because you really want to do this. If the thought of this sounds like fun, but you don't have like anything that's really tying you to it, then honestly, I'm going to be like, don't do it, right? Make sure that it means something to you. Make sure that you really want to do this, because I want the right people in this industry. And, I could just keep this all a secret and keep it all to myself, but I want to spread the message. I want people to join this industry, but I want it to be the right people. So get down to your personal and business vision and find out if this really fits for you. A lot of times we get shiny penny syndrome and it's like crypto, Airbnb, apartments, and you want to do everything. But I think it's really important to keep that focus, keep that vision. What do you want for your life? If this can help you achieve that, come on, we want you in. But if it's just another thing on your plate, go do another single family rental.
How would someone find out more about you, RAL, or get a hold of you?
RAL101.com is a great free resource website. We've got webinars, books, discovery calls, whatever you need there. If you want to chat with us or our team, you can schedule a call there. So RAL101.com.
Well, Isabelle, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about residential assisted living homes and kind of sharing your method with us and the pros and cons, the demographic information that you did, and just your overall advice. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. Thank you for being on the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. And you can also ask questions and join us on Facebook by going to RPOA, Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.